You are a young, happy, fresh gamer in the early 2000s. You just received a DS Lite for your birthday and you enter your local game store to pick up some new games. And you're only looking for the best of the best. You browse the aisles and the shelves searching for the one that calls to you. You see Nintendogs, Super Mario Bros, and even Professor Layton. And then it can't be. No way. It's Petz Hamster Superstar? Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Otter. If you have been to my channel before, hello, hi, welcome. It is really lovely to see you again. And if you haven't been to my channel before, hello, hi, welcome. It is really lovely to meet you. Today, we are taking a look into the weird and sometimes disturbing world of the Petz games, specifically Petz with a Z. And I'm not talking about your bog standard cats or dogs. No, we are going way beyond that and talking about shovelware concepts that you couldn't even make up in your dreams. And I chose these 4 titles specifically because I thought they would all be crappy shovelware that I would have no interest in playing again in my entire life. But one of these titles actually pleasantly surprised me and I would genuinely play it again and recommend it to you guys to play. But as usual, if you do find yourself enjoying today's video at any point, please consider dropping it a like and subscribing to join the Otter Talks Games Den. I am on a mission to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of 2024 and I would really appreciate your help getting there. And just a disclaimer, if you have a pet at home who is in your general vicinity or is watching this video with you, I strongly advise that you remove them from the room or maybe pause this video and watch it later on because I would hate to be responsible for giving your hamster PTSD. I personally feel that the Petz franchise hit its peak around the end of the lifetime of the Game Boy Advance and towards the beginning of the DS Lite. But I didn't realize that it actually started way before then in the 90s. The first of the games to be released in the Petz franchise were in the mid-90s and were 2 pet simulation titles, one with cats and one with dogs. It was kind of like the OG Nintendogs, enabling you to train, care and play with a virtual pet. As with a lot of early 2000s games, I feel like it could be brutal and was kind of rough about the edges, but that's what gave it its charm. You know how people like to joke about Nintendogs and how people feel really sorry for all of the lost dogs that haven't had attention in years and are probably dead? Well, I feel more sorry for the dogs in this title because if you neglect them for too long, they will actually run away or like just straight up leave you. Although I guess the fact that these cats and dogs could escape rather than just being trapped in a room of a house for the rest of their lives is a way better ending. The game itself is pretty simple in terms of gameplay and game design, and it has that early Windows look that screams nostalgia. Like I literally see the green field with the clouds and the blue sky as the like wallpaper. It was initially developed by PF Magic, which was then bought out by the Learning Company, which was then bought out by the dictator of girls gaming, Ubisoft, in 2001. And that is kind of how the Petz franchise came to be the one that we know it to be today. And looking at what happens to the series going forward and some of the titles that came out, it makes so much sense that the titles are the way that they are. The game had so many sequels going forward, up until Petz 5, which was released in 2002, and the first of which to be published by Ubisoft. They released a handful of titles after taking over, and they were all fairly normal, and they just expanded upon the cats and dogs idea. They released a Game Boy Color title, and then also moved on to the Game Boy Advance and focused more on consoles. These Ubisoft titles included, but were not limited to, Cats for GBA, Dogs for GBA, which is one of my all-time favorite games, and I actually spoke about it in this video if you fancy checking it out. Horses for PC and GBA, Hamster's Life for DS, and even Dolphins, which I feel like is a push in the region of pets, but I'll allow it because I feel like dolphins are a very stereotypical favorite animal for young girls, especially in the 2000s. I am guilty as charged. This collection of games that Ubisoft pumped out at the beginning were pretty high quality. As I mentioned, Dogs GBA is one of my favorite games of all time, and I have played a lot of games. But on the whole, they are genuinely the definition of shovelware. They reuse a lot of elements throughout the titles, and the games are pretty much the same through and through. I think once they sort of explored all avenues of the like generic pet simulation and realized that that wasn't quite enough and they couldn't keep repeating that enough to get more titles out of it, they decided to branch out. But it gets just a little bit weird, and the objectification of animals just increases tenfold the more we go through them. You might be thinking, what is so weird and wacky about having a rabbit simulation game? It's a very generic pet that a lot of children and adults have. It seems like a really obvious choice for Ubisoft to release a bunny game in the Petz line. They're really, really cute, and as I said, they are a really generic pet for families and young children to own. And if you have played dogs or cats, you'll know that one of the big elements of gameplay is training your animal. And for bunnies, they talk, as in you actually train them to talk. Bunnyz was released in 2008 and developed by Digital Kids, who also developed Cats 2006 and Hamster's Life, which Bunnyz is a carbon copy of Hamster's Life. You obviously have your usual care interactions like brushing, petting and feeding, but you mainly spend your time training your bunny, and as I mentioned, you are training your bunny to talk. This is mainly through a mini game, I guess you can call it, where you pop bubbles with different letters in and you pop them in the order to spell out a phrase. So I guess it's kind of good in that it is having a educational purpose, I guess, in that it's kind of teaching you how to spell. I think that we can stretch the imagination enough that if you can teach a bunny to talk, you can also teach a bunny to do tricks that a dog would do, like sit, roll over, paw, shake, any sort of trick like that. I think we could have done that instead of doing the speaking thing, which is just so bizarre and random. As well, your bunny can chuck mini games at you really, really randomly. You don't choose when you play the mini games. Your rabbit tells you when he or she wants to play, and then you can engage in the mini game that they've chosen. Kind of like in Super Mario Party, where the game would randomly choose a mini game for you to play. That's kind of how it works in this. This one also screams reskin or localization for me more specifically. Some of the text is really, really odd and feels like it's been put through Google Translate a couple of times. And another reason why I feel like this is because of the chibi kawaii art style that comes along with it, which I really, really enjoy. It just doesn't sway my opinion enough to make me like the game. And as much as I like the cute and kawaii art style, the rabbits themselves are really, really off-putting. I'm not sure what it is. I think I genuinely have not fear, but I am very aware of rabbits in real life. They're not my favorite animal. They do kind of freak me out a little bit. And I also feel like the ones in this game specifically look like they're plotting to kill me. Another really weird element of this game, which is just so bizarre, and it also appears in Hamster's Life. Like in Nintendogs, you have this player profile section where you can add in information about yourself. There's the generic things like your name, your date of birth, also your blood type. But then you can also add lists of people around you in your life, specifically family and friends lists. And the avatars that you can choose to sort of represent them are really, really oddly specific, and there is an odd amount of options to choose from. And I'm not sure why they put this much effort and energy into this part of a rabbit care simulation game. It's not the weirdest on the list, still it has these odd elements that I'm not sure why they decided to have them in the game. The fact that you're training your rabbit to speak rather than do tricks just sits a little bit weird with me, and the family and friends list being so specific. But then again, I do also feel like it is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a rabbit simulation care game, whatever you want to call it, and I can kind of see though why there wasn't any sequels to this one like there was for dogs and cats. There was an odd duo of games that were released by Ubisoft under the Petz branding that were called something along the lines of Insert Animal Here, Superstar. In these games, animal care takes a back seat and fame and fortune is your first priority. Like, nope, hamster, sleeping is not something you need to do right now. You need to be up and at 'em so I can throw you across the floor so you can get your 5 out of 5 stars and be a superstar. And yes, that is something that really happens in this game, and no, it is not the worst thing. I can only assume, because it never actually explicitly tells you, that the aim of these games is to reach 5 stars in all 4 skill sections. The first one that I experienced was the Dog Superstar title. You begin by choosing your breed and immediately begin training them for stardom. And to be honest, I expected the dogs to look a lot worse than they did, but I was actually pleasantly surprised by the detail and I thought they actually looked quite cute. Except the Chihuahua one, which looks more like a gerbil than a dog. The hamster version of the game that I plays afterwards follows the same sort of pattern and again is essentially the same game, just reskinned with a hamster. And yikes, this game needs a jump scare warning because the minute that hamster jumped up on screen, I'm weirdly threatened by this buff Chad looking hamster. Like, what is it with this game and making scary animals? I feel like hamsters are really easy to make cute. I'm not sure where they went wrong here. You can create custom dishes for your pets where you like physically mix them, and don't ask me why I had such a hard time doing this. I'm gonna blame the fact that I was playing it on a PC with a mouse instead of on a DS with a stylus, because I had such a difficult time mixing these freaking food bowls for the animals and I don't understand why. Other than this, the other mini games, there's like 4 of them which cover the 4 skill sets of superstardom. I'm really not sure that the hamster title would be on Peter's, is it Peter or Petter's good list? You literally just throw your hamster across the floor. And God, please, if you take anything from this video, do not do this at home. Please do not expect your hamster to be happy with you when you are literally frisbeeing him across the floor. They genuinely took the frisbee minigame from the Dog Superstar title and replaced the frisbee with a hamster. And I don't know, man, but something about that just don't sit right with me. You know how earlier I said that we were like objectifying animals in this game? This is literally the definition of objectifying. But somehow the dog title is more unrealistic than the hamster one. You literally see your dog defy gravity as he tries to catch a frisbee by literally running up a wall. I'm assuming again, as with many Petz games, you can probably dress up and customize your animals at some point, but quite frankly, I lost too many brain cells chucking my hamster across the floor, so I didn't get far enough to unlock that if it is an option. With these more shovelware, cheaper, low quality titles, they don't really set you up in the game. They just kind of chuck you into it and expect you to sort of know what you're doing off the bat with very little tutorial or guidance. Your animal actually ages up when you reach specific skill levels, so my hamster aged up when I hit this love heart. I think that's the bar that you have to reach in order for your hamster to grow up. I don't actually know if they grow up anymore beyond this. Like I said, I spent as little time as I possibly could playing these games. I also don't think there was any visual change to the animal at all. And I do wish that this was more of a bigger part of the game with more clearly displayed objectives to make the game more motivating to play. I can see why young children would want to play this game, and I can see why Ubisoft might have thought to have produced these titles. Given how popular fame culture was at this time in the 2000s, and then also how popular animal games were on the DS thanks to Nintendogs, I can see why Ubisoft would want to try and cash in on both of these things combined together. And I can see why kids would love it. It's really simple, it's bright and colourful, it's easy to get the hang of, and it does have the occasional fart joke. And obviously, I know that I am not the target audience for these titles. I know that these games are not aimed at a 24-year-old girl who has played a variety of games throughout her life. But do we really think that 4, 5, 6, maybe even pushing 7-year-olds deserve this quality of content, even way back in the 2000s? Looking at the fact that we had Nintendogs and even Dogs GBA that came before this, I really hope the answer is no. And if there was anything these games are valuable for, it's probably how not to treat your pets. This is your reminder to never judge a game by its cover, because I actually really like this game. I really like that the player is given this context that runs alongside the gameplay, as it helps you immerse more into the world and feel more connected with what you're doing, like personally, especially as there is like a bunch of cute characters that are involved in it. Even if they are only really carriers for tutorials, at least they have some sort of defining personality and they actually pay you for your services. Petz Pony Beauty Pageant actually features a ton of gameplay, but before that you get to choose your own horse, and if you want, even customize your own. And it weirdly goes into a lot of detail and has really good variation of choices that give enough options, but not so much that you feel overwhelmed. The horses are a little awkward looking, I will admit, and they would smash anyone in a staring contest because they literally don't blink. But on the whole, I do think that they're pretty okay looking. And they kind of give like a off-brand My Little Pony vibe, and they remind me of the little like miniature horses. I cannot remember what they're called. My sister used to love them. Shetlands? Once you are all set up and you've created your horse, you can get going with caring for your horse. Each responsibility that comes with owning a horse has a mini game, which is all simple enough, but not at the level where they just require you to smash buttons or just like whack the stylus across the screen a couple of times, and there is a huge variety of them. In fact, the jumping mini game, which is one of the events that you can compete in with your horse, actually caught me off guard with how much of my attention I had to give to it to get a perfect score. There are so many small parts and pieces that come together in this game to make it feel so much more high quality than all of the other titles that we've looked at in this video. Besides the actual gameplay, there's also some really cute like collecting elements to the game too. You collect information cards which tell you about different horse breeds, which obviously brings in an educational element to the game, and you can also collect stickers, which I never actually found any of them when I was playing. Granted, I didn't play the game for very long. Of course, this game is not perfect, and I am comparing it to 3 other titles which, in a kinder word, are shocking that they were even allowed to be sold as a full price game. There can be quite a lot of text, especially when you are talking to characters earlier on in the game and you're having your sort of tutorial section. I ended up skipping quite a lot of these, just because my attention span in video games does not allow for lots of text. Because of this, I ended up missing out on a lot of the verbal cues for where to go next in the game, as once you sort of exit that text, it's not listed or highlighted anywhere as to where you should then go. You would think it would be in the PDA, but once again, we are given a PDA which is the opposite of what it should be. Useless. And I feel like there's an awkward pull between being a little bit too spoon-feedy and giving away too much. And I think this really hurts the game because it makes you lose some of that momentum that you build and decreases your engagement. Oh my god, I also could not for the life of me figure out how to feed my horse. The game did not tell me that the feed shop was locked for ages, and I just ended up tapping random parts of the screen trying to figure out how to access the food. Like, my horse was literally starving because it took me so long to figure out to press the arrow on the top left screen to move on to the next section of the storyline. But besides these things, among a sea of mediocre shovelware, this one actually stands out as one of the better horse-related girly games I've ever seen on any console. And especially for this to come out of Ubisoft and the studios that they bought, I'm very impressed. So if you're looking for a cute brain rot horse simulator to spend your time on and to make you feel like a kid again, I would definitely recommend this one for you. But unfortunately, that is all we have time to look into today. Let me know if you played these games as a kid and if there is any ones that you would like me to look into going forward. I'm hoping to look into more Petz titles. There was one that I was really close to including in this video. It's called Petz Fantasy, I think, and you can like look after a unicorn or something. I'm not even sure, but it really piqued my interest and I'm hoping to make a video on it going forward, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on that one. But for now, I'm gonna say goodbye, hydrate to stay great, get your daily calorie intake, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.